Welcome everyone to the Punjabi Mental Health Podcast by Taraki. This is a place where we come together to have conversations about mental health, communities, and associated topics to drive forward positive change. We are really lucky here to be in Leeds today with a brilliant panel of guests who are bringing their own expertise about work in the mental health and well-being field and recognizing the amazing and fantastic support that they give to their communities. So on that topic, today is about celebrating communities. We know that conversations about mental health and well-being is often about the things that don't work, the things that can be better, the things that we've had difficulty accessing, or the things that haven't supported us when we've needed it. And those conversations are really, really important. And we have those conversations. But today is about recognizing, celebrating, and charting a way forward for the work that we do. And yes, we will talk about some of the things that aren't working as well as possible or things that we need to improve. But we're also going to be talking about some of the fantastic work that's been happening right here in this city and in the towns around to support our communities in conversations that have been really difficult to have in the past, but conversations that are important nonetheless. So we have 4 guests with us today. We have Jazz, Sangeet, Sarbjit, and then Naminder. I'm not going to go into their stories or talk about them, but we are going to go into that in the first question. And this is the most serious question that we're going to ask today. I don't know why you're laughing, it's serious. I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a bit about the work that you're involved with, and then tell us what your favorite prota is. And this is a time I have to say a disclaimer. If you don't agree with them, please don't boo, please don't cheer. Everyone, we all have a right to have our own favorite prota. And we're testing those comments about being non-judgmental. Someone said avocado prota once. I heard some people in the audience like, what? Oh my gosh, that's disgusting. You know, if someone wants an avocado in their prota, they just want an avocado in their prota. But we'll start off with you, Jazz.
Yeah, so my name's Jazz. I'm a peer support facilitator through Taraki Week for Yourselves. And I sort of got onto that journey about 2 years ago. And then work now with RU and sort of other organisations. In terms of favourite prota, Alu's probably my favourite, but I'm probably going to chuck Keema out there.
No one said that before. That's a good, unique answer.
I thought nobody's going to say that.
Together? Is that together or is that separate?
I've never tried it together. I'll have to ask my mum to try it and make it, but yeah, no, separate.
Fantastic. Well, that's catering sorted for next time. Lovely. Thank you so much, Jazz. Sangeet.
Oh, hi, Guru. I'm Sangeet Kaur, and my work is predominantly with a community group called Mind Ashram, which is focused on women's mental health with a real sort of core focus on that perinatal period. In terms of favourite Bronte, I'm quite a traditionalist actually. I like my Allu Vale Bronte, but it has to have a lot of Allu in there. No sort of mixing it into the dough. It's got to be, a big chunk of Allu in there. But recently, I've just been experimenting with broccoli Bronte, which are actually also really amazing. And it's a good way to get broccoli down your children if they don't like broccoli. So yeah, and for anyone that's gluten-free out there, because I am, there's a Ferrari Atta blend, which is a blend of 3 flours, which is amazing. You can't tell the difference between that and wheat Atta.
And so, sorry, is the aloo and broccoli together?
No.
Okay, this is separate.
Broccoli's on its own.
Okay, cool. Because I've had a lot of aloo paratha that put me to sleep. So we'll have a chat about the gluten thing. I think there must be something going on there. Fantastic. Thank you. Sarbjit.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sarbjit and I'm from Touchstone, and I'm the BME Health and Wellbeing Service Manager there. And under that, I run a few projects. I run Seek Elder Service, the BME Dementia Service, and also a project called Blossom, which works with clients that are going through FGM case management. And my favourite prota is Methe Wale Prote, only because it reminds me of my Nani ji.
I heard someone go, oh, so that was nice. That was a nice celebration of that. Fantastic. Naminder.
Hi everyone, I'm Naminder Singh. I'm the chair of Rue Health and Wellbeing, which is a charity that's registered here in Leeds. We mainly work on raising awareness of mental health issues, wellbeing, and trying to do nature walks, and just get the community involved outside the Gurdwara space, and not just Sikhs. We work with South Asians. Favourite pronta is aloo pronta. However, I will eat any pronta. So if there's a pronta there, I will eat it.
That's a great disclaimer. You know, when you said however, I was like, oh God, I don't know what he's gonna say. It was a very stern however, but that was a fantastic. Lovely. Well, that's the end of the podcast because we've spoken about Protea. But no, thank you so much everyone for talking a bit about a little quick intro into some of the work that you do. And I've got lots of follow-up questions and we'll be able to delve into that soon. But all of us come from somewhere. All of us have a journey into this work. And on that way, there are often people who inspire us on that journey. They're the people who have given us the energy, the drive, the motivation to take forward the work that we do. And all of us here today will have someone in our lives who inspire us, someone in our lives who make us feel as though we can do anything, or something in our lives that makes us feel as though we can do anything. So I just want to open first by asking you, who inspires you? Who has helped you to get where you are, whether that's directly or indirectly? And who helps you to create that foundation?
I'd probably say like Naminder and Dylan's a good person as well. They sort of, they've put like the heart into this like Rue and the charities, and it's nice to see. And when someone's doing that, you sort of want to help them and engage as well yourself. And then probably sort of final was probably my mum, because she sort of taught me like to be selfless and look and help others where you can. So that's probably sort of my three.
You're shouting at mums.
Yeah. It's because I want those paroti afterwards, so I've got to.
Fantastic, thank you, Jazz. Anyone else want to start us off on who inspires us?
Guru Nanak Dev Ji inspires me. The 3 golden rules, you can Google that later, but I've always learned to, serve others, live truthfully and work honestly. I also give my time and resources to the community. But the person that does inspire me a lot is my little boy, who's Gyan, and he has Down syndrome and autism, and he can do everything, and he inspires me a lot every single day, and he's my motivation, and he inspires me every day.
Amazing. Thank you, Benji.
I'll go next, Benji, but totally took the words out of my mouth. Waheguru Kirpa, but Hanji, so Dhan Guru Nanak, Waheguru. And I'm super blessed to be surrounded by a close-knit Sangha that really reflect those qualities of Guru Nanak, that non-judgmental. Guru Nanak Dev Ji went into those spaces where others would not dare to go, where the outcasts were, the robbers, the murderers, the cannibals, right? And probably at the lowest, most difficult point in my life, Maharaj Waheguru sent this beautiful, close-knit Sangha to surround me and my little boy. And when I look at them and the love and the acceptance that they emanate, it inspires me to be better every day. And again, my little boy, when I'm on the floor, exhausted, haven't got any energy left, I look at him and with Maharaj's Kirpa, I get up and carry on. Waheguru.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Benji.
I'm going to be copying again. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji and all the gurus and the Sikhi teachings, and especially Chardi Kala, which is the concept of a positive mindset, keeping high spirits, whatever you're faced with, and keeping that grounding and balance to be able to get through whatever is happening. And I've often called on, I would say, our protectors. They are our protectors, and that's how I view them. And finding that gave me everything. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teachings, 100%. And just all the gurus, Guru Gobind Singh Ji gave us strength, power, and how to defend yourself. And just all together, it's the grounding that I needed. And I didn't find it initially when I was young, but as I came into Sikhi in my mid-20s, it just grew and grew until it was cemented, and I found my thing that I can rely on. So that's...
And so you started talking there a bit about your journey,
Yes,
which kind of links quite nicely into the other follow-up question I had, which was, we've outlined kind of the people or kind of processes, or in a lot of the conversations, the elements of our faith which inspire us. But what then drove you to supporting and working with our communities in a fuller way?
Okay, so I'll say a little bit of my journey. As from a young age, and I didn't realize it at the time, I always struggled with depression and anxiety, and I didn't have a lot of friends, very small circle. I went to schools that were mainly white, so a lot of bullying going on, and just not a lot of support at all. So my journey was always up and down, and balancing home life and with my parents. They were the generation from India, and they can support you somewhat in your education, but the home life wasn't really there. It was more of a Punjabi home life, you know, the typical Punjabi home life we have. So that journey of hurt and depression just followed me, and a lot of life events happened all the way through. So that's where I went. And sorry, remind me of the...
Yeah, firstly, thank you for sharing your experiences.
Yeah.
And I think it's how those experiences then meant that you've taken a step up and are working
Yeah.
with our communities.
So in a way, I developed techniques how to overcome them, how to overcome my depression through Naam Simran, through breathing, and a lot of things. I just picked them up. I tried different things until something worked. And once I found something worked and got to the healing stage, I then felt I really wanted others to heal. Because I would go to the Gurdwara on a Sunday. I'd regularly be at the Gurdwara on a Sunday doing seva and seeing the people where I was. And literally looking at them thinking, how can we help you? Because the Gurdwara was good for Kirtan and good for the community, but these things were not happening. So I felt I needed to get this out there and try and share some of these tools, or even just get people talking, or even recognizing. Just recognize you've got a problem, because a lot of people don't. They just battle through.
And so that then led you to start Ru in what it was back then.
Yes.
And just, if you give us an idea of like what gave you that push, right? Because you've spoken about the difficulties, the problem that you identified, and then what gave you that final push to put yourself out there in that way?
Literally, I felt like I'm bursting with I need to do something, and I know how to help somebody, but I can't just walk over to somebody and go, why don't you do that? Because they're going to go, who are you? Go away. So you try and do it on a bit of a professional level, or here's something for everybody. I'm not talking to you, but I'm hoping you're in the audience of who's listening, and pushing it out to them and giving them something they can go try. And might not work the first time. Repeat it 2 or 3 times and just keep saying it until somebody picks up and goes, yeah, I'll try that. And then they try it and they come back. So that's the approach, literally, I went with.
Amazing. Thank you. And I appreciate, outlining that kind of journey, and then going from experience to going and making an impact it's not a quick thing to happen. It happens over years. Amazing. Any other of our panelists want to give a bit of an idea about what took you from being interested or being connected to a space to actually taking action?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I always had an interest in well-being and mental well-being in particular, and really sort of taking control back, actually. I'm one of the worst people for taking any form of medication, although it has its place sometimes, absolutely. And that started a journey almost 2 decades ago, actually, when I went to America. I trained to become a yoga teacher, actually, a very immersive experience, but it was way more than yoga. It was approach to life, nutrition, just thoughts, everything, a complete detox. And I came back from that a much clearer person, a much stronger person, a much more resilient person. And that fed into sort of the journey from there on. I got really interested in nutrition and then went to study in Manchester part-time and trained in nutritional therapy, which was so amazing, like similar to being in this room with people that are all interested in something that's really close to your heart. I was on a course, a study program with people that were all kind of on the same page. So that was the kind of the journey up until the next chapter started, which is when, I conceived my son, who's now 7 years old. And I was in a situation which was very toxic, very difficult. And it was interesting to just see how during that really delicate period of pregnancy and the whole perinatal period, actually, birth, post-birth, how when women should be receiving the most tender care, the most kind of holding, is sometimes when some of the worst behaviour comes out. And as a result of my experiences during that period, I really struggled with my mental health. And I tried everything I could think of to try and pull me back out of this really painful, dark place that I'd gotten into, and, was just not managing to pull myself out. And I had amazing family around me, really good sangat. And speaking to the Gurdwara space, actually, it's really interesting because I think, we have structures in place in our Gurdwara Sahibs where support can be provided. And I think there's a lot of good intention there, but not the experience or the knowledge to know how to, whether it's domestic abuse, whether it's, depression, whatever sort of serious situation exists, there's often this real desire to want to help, but not the kind of knowledge base or the experience to be able to help. So sometimes actually things can be made worse by involvement of people that don't really know how to handle things. But the one thing that Maharaj sent, which totally transformed everything, and this just takes me back to our Guru. So I ended up going to America again during pregnancy, and also when my son went to the same place again when he was almost 18 months old. And it was a retreat, essentially, which was 8 days long of every single day waking up early, meditating, moving, so we were doing yoga, breath work, and then we'd spend the day just immersing ourselves in a shabad, which we would journey with for another couple of days, and you would sing collectively. And I was with a group of people, there were about 60 of us, and I was the only Punjabi Sikh that was in attendance. The facilitators, a lot of them, they were all Sikh, actually, from various backgrounds. But every single person that was there was coming from a place of searching, yearning, wanting to connect, because, my belief is that depression, a lot of, the suffering through mental unwellness we experience is a disconnect. That's essentially what it is. It's a disconnect from ourselves, from our environment, from those around us, from our community, but ultimately a disconnect from at our source and ourself. And what this retreat did for me was it completely altered my whole state. So when nothing was working on a cognitive level, you could try and rationalize with me all day long. I was doing CBT, and CBT, totally has its place, but I was in a place where I could see what they were saying and it made complete sense to me, but my brain just wasn't able to grasp it and apply it. But what happened during those 8 days is being in Sangat, singing these amazing words which just kind of completely alter your vibration, brought me into a place of being healed. So I left that retreat. And then I came to that awareness that, not everybody can just fly off to America for 8 days. And why don't we have this here? Like, we need to be doing this here. It needs to be accessible. And that was really what kickstarted this for me, not wanting, other women or anybody actually to be in that place of such deep pain. When actually there are things that can be done, and it's not hard to make it happen, that can really help pull us out. So yeah, that's
Amazing.
me.
Thank you so much for kind of explaining that journey and bringing something that you've benefited from to the place where you live. Because I can't just jump on a flight tomorrow. I'm not sure that's realistic or viable for 99% of people to do. So it's great to bring that into community here in Leeds and the surrounding areas. So thank you. Jazz or Sabjit, any thoughts on what took you from, being people in our communities to people who are wanting to make an impact in our communities?
So my background was totally different. I'd come from the civil service. And my life changed when I found out I was pregnant with my third child. And my son was diagnosed with Down syndrome. So that was a very big change in our lives, a wonderful blessing as well. And then I got involved in the charity sector because there was a support group here. So I was supporting other families because there weren't many families that had may have had a child with Down syndrome. So I was supporting other families in Yorkshire. And then from that, it developed and it was great. But then I thought, I want to move on to a different community. And that's when I got involved with Sikh elders. So then it was a different demographic, working with the elders and Punjabi community. So it's totally different. So it was just nice to transition from something very wonderful and inspirational, and then also help a different demographic with their journey going forward.
So what is it that your work at Sikh Elders usually, what does that look like?
Oh, it's amazing. Everybody wants to join Sikh Elders. So it's my job is to help them through, it's not end-of-life care, though we do end-of-life care, but we help them through after 55 plus, if they've got any mental health, they want mental health support with like being lonely, feeling lonely or depressed, or they want to connect with the community. And if they've got disabilities, we advocate and we support them through their journey in later life. We help them connect with the community. So that's what we do at Sikh Elders.
Thank you so much for explaining that journey. And I think it's always important to reflect that actually where we end up isn't where we start.
Absolutely.
And very similarly with myself, like I didn't think I'd be doing this kind of work, but sometimes, the plan isn't in your hands and you just kind of go with the flow, and we end up hopefully doing the things that we're meant to be doing here. Amazing.
So my journey is probably only up until last sort of 3-4 years where I sort of really knew what mental health was. And it was more so over COVID where I started working with Midlands Langar Seva, and there's another Sikh charity in Leeds called Sikh Sport. And it was when lockdown first happened, and the elderly were sort of told to stay at home and locked away. And I used to do like food drops, and myself and my mum and that, we used to make food for them and drop food parcels off to them. And it was there. I remember this one auntie. She was she must have been about 60 or something, and this is when it sort of first happened. And she couldn't speak to anybody. She was stuck in her own room, and she was like, she didn't have no form or no means of speaking to people. And she'd just changed her internet, and she was like, "Oh, Kaka, you know, my internet Jaldani, can you come fix it?" And it was a weird time back then, and I went up to her room, I fixed it, but I felt like a villain because the rules were like, you know, you're supposed to keep away from people. And she didn't have nobody, and she's like, "Oh, look, now I can speak to my brother, I can speak to my family." And it was just then I realised that I was thinking, this Bajari's probably been in lockdown for like 2-3 weeks, and she's had no one to speak to. And back then, where, you know, you just sat there in a room, you know, with your own thoughts, and she was just speaking to me just about general stuff. And then when I was doing that, it were other people as well, they started speaking to me. And then over lockdown again, people were just sort of reaching out to me and saying, "Look, can we go for a walk? Can we go for a chat?" And they're sort of just offloading. And I realised there's probably a lot of people that are suffering with mental health, especially over lockdown, that there needs to be something there. There needs to be something that, you know, as a community that we can do. Because fair enough, okay, I was trying to help people that I knew, but there's probably a lot of people that have probably just sort of fallen under the ether and not getting that help. And then, you know, one of the people that I used to walk with and speak to, and they used to sort of, you know, needed help, recommended obviously your training. And at first I was like, it's 7 o'clock on a Saturday, no chance I'm not doing it.
So it's now 7 a.m.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm thankful for it, because now, you know, there's a lot more people that do sort of outside of RU, which, you know, that's the official means, but they'll just sort of message me and be like, "Oh, you know, I'm feeling a certain way, can you sort of help me?" And with the training provided, it sort of helps me pick up and sort of understand people a bit more, whereas I didn't have that, obviously, without the training. It was just me being a sort of a friendly person, listening to people. And that had sort of made me realise that, you know what, there's probably something that I need to do. And then we did the training and then started holding the spaces, and I've realised that there's a lot of people that do suffer, but they're not sort of coming forward, or, you know, they might be just reaching out to friends, but there's like an official place, there's something like a charity now that they can see, they're aware of, and they can approach.
And you kind of touched there on some of the work that RU leads that you're involved with.
Yeah.
What is that looking like, and who are the kinds of people who might benefit from that?
Anybody, I think the stigma is that people assume that you've got to have a mental breakdown to attend these things, whereas we're probably the first step. We're probably sort of prevention, really. So it's like, if, you know, you could have a busy week at work and you're struggling and you want to, I don't know, like, you know, if your friends are busy or whatever, there's a space where, you know, we do like games and stuff, and, you know, pizza and football, so they can attend these things, offload if they need to offload. But then it's just breaking away from that issue, whatever's sort of causing you that mental stress. And it's just more like you say, they're doing a lot. They try to hold events all the time so people can attend, trying to make things for different ages, whether it's at the Gurdwara, so people can attend at the Gurdwara. If it's football, if people want to sort of, you know, build up the fitness, they can attend that. And, you know, pizza night, so who doesn't love pizza? So, yeah. So
there's a few different things there, which I think is really important, because it's not one size fits all for these conversations. You can have...
Yeah, and the age, like you say, you know, people might be, the elderly would probably more likely be at the Gurdwara. So
they're not playing football?
No, well, no.
That's
we're trying to get them into it.
Yeah.
But again, like the younger people might want to play football, pizza, again, whatever it is, walking.
Pizza doesn't discriminate on age.
No, it doesn't. But then it could be just walking. You know, people just like to sort of just be walking, or coffees, or even mixed grills. There's loads of different events that, whatever sort of suits them, or they feel like it'll be more catered to them, they can attend.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think doing it and connecting with people on activities that they already do is such an important part of this, because, you know, when I started the journey in Taraki and some of the work that we do, I started assuming that people would want to come to something new. And there definitely are some folks who will come to something new. But when we're having these difficult conversations, and when there's something that isn't really the norm to discuss, it's nice just pairing it with an activity that people already want to do. It makes it a lot easier.
Well, it's catching them at something they're enjoying, but helping them deal with something that they don't want to enjoy, in effect. So you're merging the two things together. So if you're doing pizza and everything, and they might just start sharing because they're comfortable and they're doing something they don't need to work at. And at the same time, if you're trained, you can help them.
And I think what you've described there in terms of an activity done in a good way with good people, with good conversation, that's kind of what we should be doing as humans already, right? And so just asking others as well, what do we think has stopped us from being able to do that as people? Now that we're having to almost, not relearn it, but we're having to reconnect in a slightly different way.
I feel like it's a symptom of modern living to a large extent. Everybody's kind of operating, I feel sometimes in silos, and individualism's become like this really big thing. I have my own house and I have, my job, and this is what I do. And actually, sometimes we can be so consumed in the demands of life that we can neglect our own well-being and connections ultimately. And checking in with those around us. And what's really, it's kind of a bit of a tangent, but I feel like it's really relevant, that there are community living setups in Leeds, actually. There's an amazing one just in Bramley. And the way that they operate, it's a cooperative. So basically, there's about 20 families that live on one site. Each family has their own accommodation, but they have a shared common house. They have shared allotments, a shared garden space, and they're essentially living as one family. They all know each other really well. They sometimes will, go away together, celebrate, and essentially, I think that's how we have always lived as human beings, as part of a community. That's how tribes lived, and there was this pool of wisdom, multi-generation living. Our children benefited from it, the elders benefited, everybody benefited. And I think now the demands of modern living have kind of made us live in a more isolated way, which is impacting everybody. And hence we're having to create these spaces for reconnection, kind of directed reconnection, whereas that generally would be happening very naturally in times previous.
Fantastic. Thank you. Mary, I don't know if you had any further thoughts to add to that.
Again, there's a lot of fear about joining groups and activities within our community. A lot of people are uncertain what's going to happen at the group. Will I know anybody else there? Why do I need to go to a centre? Trying to understand that that they're going to get support there, peer support. It's very hard for some of our elders to leave their homes, to transition to with their mobility. How do I get somewhere? So there's a lot of fear about connecting, but it's all once. It's like accepting a child into nursery sometimes, and once they're there, they enjoy being there because of the creative activities that we offer. But there is definitely a fear and a stigma about going and joining groups to help with mental health and well-being.
And for Sikh elders, just understanding a bit about who are some of those people that benefit most from being involved with that work.
We have different groups. We have a mixed group. We have a male and female group on a Monday, Do Kapchade. Then we have a women's group, Saheliya. Then we have a men's Zoom group as well. But then we also have our wonderful volunteers that might want to take a few services out for a walk. But it's mainly for anyone that speaks Punjabi. So Punjabi is really important as well. To come to a group, will there be someone who can understand me? Will there be someone that I can speak to? So that's really important as part of our service delivery. And so that they can access and learn a bit more about where they can get more help or be signposted to other places. So that's really important. Language is very important at our groups.
And do you find it's easier? Do you find that people find it easier to communicate in Punjabi?
Yeah, definitely bridges that gaps, and they learn from each other. as well. So it's very important that that happens. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Benji, with some of the work that you're leading, I know you mentioned it's connected to kind of perinatal health. Is it just people associated, like, who are in the perinatal health stage? So who is benefiting from some of the work that you're doing?
So the group was originally set up to really support women from the South Asian community, because I think there are very specific needs which aren't necessarily being met by mainstream support services that are available, because they're very specific challenges that I think as, Sikh, Hindu women, any South Asian woman, challenges that we face that are specific to our community. But having said that, we do have a lot of non-Sikh, non-South Asian women that come to our groups, just because there's so much richness that anybody can tap into, regardless of which community you're from, but we're always still directing them to that particular community. And one of the things that we've touched on already, that actually the volunteers do really amazingly, is weaving, whatever it is. It might be crafts, it might be walking, it might be Kirtan in the park, it might be bringing in someone that's got knowledge on Ayurveda, or has lived experience of detoxing their life, whatever it is, mixing all these things, but always held in the cup of connection with each other, that kind of peer support and feeling heard and feeling understood, and then connecting with Shabad, singing as that one voice and connecting in this really powerful way. But then we feel that the ripple effect of that, so, one of the things that when we were creating this vision for Mind Ashram was that, the mothers are essentially the future, because they're the carriers, they are raising the children are our future, right? In those first early years, it's the mother essentially that, largely sets the foundation of their health, the emotional, mental, physical well-being of a child. And when we support the mothers well, we're supporting the future generations well, and actually that then creates a society which is healthy. We're raising daughters and sons that are well-adjusted, that are resilient, that have got healthy outlooks, and that creates a healthy society. So a lot of the work that we do is there to support women, but the ripple effect is wider. And then some of the kind of the educational stuff that we've done, like we did a workshop in Bradford on domestic violence, and looked at a lot of the statistics around that, and the sort of the warning signs, and what can we do as a community around that, because the ripple effect of that is huge. That was an event open to everyone, because actually it's that education that's going to drive a lot of the change that needs to happen. Yes, the support needs to be there, but we also need to change behaviours and perceptions, and sometimes just misinformation and misunderstanding about the really deeply damaging impact of certain behaviour.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I think, understanding a bit about people who are involved, thinking about what journeys we've been on to get to this point. I find whenever you're doing work, and people will know this, when you're working with communities, when you're working or trying to work in a selfless way to try and make a positive impact, you can get really caught in the detail, and you're looking at how things are running from a day-to-day, event to event, space to space. And often we don't take a step back and appreciate where we've got to, appreciate what's been done and what we've been able to achieve. So I'm curious from yourselves, we know a bit more about your work now, but what's something that you've seen or something that you've observed in your work that's just made you feel really proud with what you've done and what you've been supporting?
I suppose for me, part of one of the events that we did was the football one, and BBC came and covered it, and they wanted to, highlight the issue that, in sort of South Asian Punjabi culture, there is an issue, and there is someone there trying to tackle it. Pardon the pun, but there is someone trying to, deal with the issue. But then for me, I personally think it's just passing issues. Like if I'm at the Gurdwara and we've got to stand up, people that I know, like friends and stuff, they're like, you know what, well done, because it's really well needed, this. And, you know, some of them will be like, you know what, I needed this as well, you know, like a year or two ago. So I'm glad that there's something there now in future that they can call upon when it's needed. So they're probably the two main things that really stand out in terms of what I feel more proud about with the...
And I know you mentioned earlier that people will message you and say, have you got time to go on a walk? And I know exactly how that feels, because sometimes you're someone that people want to talk to.
Yeah.
And I'm getting the vibe that that's kind of what the situation that you're finding yourself in.
Yeah.
How do you look after yourself in that?
Again, it's one of those where, if I'm honest, I'm probably a people pleaser in terms of I will try help them, but then at the same time, if I'm burnt out, you know, I have to say to them, you know what, I can't do it. Like, you know, turn up to one of the events, and either myself or one of the facilitators will help. And you know, there's no point me trying to help people if I'm burnt out. It's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna achieve anything. I might be snappy. I might be, you know, sending them up the wrong path. So it's one of those, I can sort of tell when I'm burnt out. You know, it could be work stress or just whatever it is. I can sort of gauge it. I can just sort of tell by my energy levels. You know, if I'm burnt out, I just need to, you know what, just relax. Just, you know, get yourself back into the game a bit. And then if someone does reach out, just say to them, look, just, you know, just bear with me a few days, a week or whatever. You know, I can maybe pick up with you then, or just come to one of the events, and you know, somebody will, you know, if I'm not in the best place, somebody else will be, and they'll be able to help.
And that's a really important part, isn't it? Knowing that actually you're not just an individual who's doing this, and actually all of us here aren't just individuals who are trying to make a positive impact, but having different types of support, different types of services, different types of groups, different types of activities people can connect in with. It reduces the burden on one individual, because just as you said, it's really easy, if we've had a bad week, it's really easy to be snappy, to not respond how we'd want to respond. And it's great that we have different things that we can connect people into, different options. So that's fantastic. And Sangeet, just that question about something that's made you feel proud, like a moment or, you know, anything at all in your work.
I have a lot of awe moments when we're in our circles together. Just when you see a group of women and they're all doing it themselves, essentially, you know, you kind of like create, with Guru's grace, the container, and then the women come and they're just doing it all. Do you know that you have so much wisdom in that collective, and they're supporting each other. And a lot of our groups, we do have space for conversation, you know, and usually there'll be a theme. So there's just a kind of a direction to it. And some of the things that come out of that are really quite incredible. And there's just a community that's now been built up over 3 years that we've been running, and really strong connections within that community. I think probably the biggest awe moment for me was when we had our first Shabad Guru immersion. It was a Guru Nanak Nishkam Sevak Jatha Gurdwara in Beeston, not far from here actually, where we just had like this immersive experience in Sangat, just taking a journey with one Shabad, and just seeing the journey that everybody went on in that one day, and what a transformation one day, a focused Sankti experience can give you in the shelter of that space of being within, you know, the Guru space and immersed in Shabad Guru. So that was really powerful. And we've also, Maharaj Kirpa again, with the Guru's grace, run 2 residential retreats, which is taking us close. We're not quite at 8 days yet, but, you know, we've got to 3, and they were really incredible experiences. And I think the quite unique thing, which brings a lot of richness to these circles, these sessions, is the intimacy. So our groups are never really that big, and the retreats that we ran, I mean, the one at the Gurdwara site was, you know, a fairly big one, but the residential retreats have always been like about 12, 13 people. And there's a richness in that as well, where everybody gets to know each other, and you leave that weekend having formed these really meaningful connections, which you are then able to take forward, and also learning so much from each other through shared experience.
Amazing. I think it's brilliant to hear how things have developed and evolved, and obviously, the different ways that you're able to connect with people who are using and supported by what you're offering. Awesome. Most proud? Which moment? Something? Someone? Words?
Yeah, I'm struggling I'm not one to like boast or say proud or anything in myself, but I think just seeing people heal, that makes me feel good and proud, because you explain something to them. So I've run Simran sessions. I used to do one in the city. I think there's a Singh at the back who attest, he used to attend. So we worked in the city centre, and in a church I used to run Simran at lunchtime on a Tuesday, I think it was. And even the pastor at the church would join. And our energy would settle that muddled thing that you are. You would come out of having done this meditation, this breathing, and this energy. You're building it up for your body, and you're centering it. And I know Benji's fully aware of what I'm talking about. And it's that when that moment hits somebody and you realise it, and you see you've given them something they can heal with now. It's like a tool, in effect. But it's not a tool because it's actually what we naturally are supposed to be doing. But we're not. Technology has made us forget. These environments have made us forget that we're actually supposed to be in nature. We're not supposed to be sat in rooms. We're not supposed to be closed up in offices and working away. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. And a lot of that is the disconnect. So making people see that disconnect. That's it. That makes me happy.
Good. I'm glad. And I think when you were answering and saying nothing makes me proud, I was like, I'm going to ask you if something does. Mm-hmm. But obviously something does.
Yeah.
It might not be something that you're connecting to yourself and your personal actions, but actually it's just about providing a space.
It's the thing is flowing and it's working. That's, I would say, what makes me proud, yeah.
Amazing.
I'm very proud of my service users, my service clients, because they're the ones that are making the difference. They're the ones that are telling their story. They are the ones that are doing the cultural exchanges, experience in the community. They're the ones that are bridging the gaps in the community. They are the ones that are helping others to learn. So I'm very proud of my service users because they build their confidence by actually going out there and sharing their stories about migration, how to tie a sari, how to make a roti. You know, the little simple things that they have learned, everyday things, they bring into the community and they share that and they celebrate that and they mix with everyone. And it's just so wonderful to see the magic happen. So I'm very proud of that when I see my service users building that confidence to do that, to speak to others. And that takes a lot of courage, and I think I'm very proud of that.
I love that word, magic, because it is literally like alchemy. Like you get together in a group and it just happens. It's like watching alchemy happen. It's incredible.
You share energies, don't you?
Yeah.
We're all giving off energy all the time.
Yeah.
When it's positive and you share it, it expands.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks quite well to some of the work that obviously we've seen develop, particularly working with men in our communities. Because often people would say to me, they'd be like, oh, it must be really difficult having conversations with Punjabi men about mental health. And I'd go back and say, actually, if you create the space in the right way, if you bring the right people into the room, it's really difficult to get people to stop talking. And so we don't like writing people off. We don't like saying that communities can't do things or men can't talk about mental health, but we like looking at solutions. How you balance, as you said, those energies in a space, how you're able to have those difficult conversations and make that magic happen. And I like the kind of connection to magic because sometimes it kind of just feels like that. And you're in a space and it just feels right. And feeling right and feeling comfortable and feeling included is like one of the key foundations of how we be human. And so it's great to hear that's a massive kind of commonality across the different work that we do. And obviously we've got all the fantastic work happening in the area. We've got different types of activities, different types of groups. But there must be something that you think is holding us back from taking the next step. Whether that is something we see as a way of thinking in our communities, whether that is a bigger issue with some of our systems, whether that is challenges in the kind of charity sector, the community sector. What do you feel is holding us back from taking that next step to making even more change in our communities?
I'd probably say awareness in terms of, Punjabi men. We've still got this whole, stigma of, if somebody's not feeling great, they'll be like, the mark's Saini or something like that. And it's, mental health, it's deeper than that. It's a lot deeper. It's complicated, and it's more that awareness that, it could be like you just feeling bad for like a day or two. Some people might be feeling, for a month or two. It's just, it's hard to scale, but there's not, like you said, there's a language in terms of language barriers. There's not like, I don't know what the Punjabi word is for, like mental health, but it's those things where people are probably not aware of it, and people are probably not aware of, in terms of mental health, I've got mental health, maybe identifying that they've got mental health, but then also solutions and, like some of these charities, we're trying to go to the Godwari, we're trying to like post, a lot of it is online, but are the elderly going to see it online? Do you know what I mean? So it's trying to cover all bases, and I suppose it's that awareness piece and trying to get that balance right, so then it don't limit, there's people that, are not going to fall through the net, and there's not that limitation there. I'd probably say funding as well a little bit. A lot of this stuff at the moment, like in terms of Roo, I know like Dylan's done a charity, a half a marathon, but it tends to be, probably need maybe sort of more independent maybe businesses or, people within the community to help us and sort of drive it forward. We're trying to do it ourselves, I know, like them in the Baji and put it on socials and stuff, but we probably need a bit more of a push from other people as well, just to share it and say, these guys are doing this. It's more, I suppose, it's understanding. If people understand what we're doing, they can push it. And if they might have somebody at home who's suffering with mental health or, postnatal, whatever it is, they can guide them and say, there's this charity that's actually doing this, which might be relevant for you. Why don't you sort of go visit them and see them? But I suppose it's bridging that gap.
Yeah, so just in terms of identifying perhaps what's capping how much we're able to do at the moment, similarly, so I'm a volunteer with Mind Ashram, and I have a job outside of that, and all our volunteers do actually. They're all doing this on a voluntary basis, and I think time is...
Have you not figured out 25-hour days yet?
Still working on that one.
No, I've got no idea.
So that's feeling like something that's placing a cap on it. And then with funding, like we have basically as volunteers either funded ourselves or have asked for voluntary donations, which have then funded it. But because we're a community group, we haven't set up as a CIC or a charity or anything like that as yet. That can sometimes impact how we do things a little bit. But I think the biggest thing, I think that might help to shift all of this, because actually one of the things that we've noticed is that quite often we'll find somebody that comes to Mind Ashram and benefits from the service and says, why did I not know about this sooner? And we haven't managed to master sort of getting the word out to the wider Sangha. It's usually by word of mouth, or we've got an Instagram page and people might sort of stumble across that, but we haven't got like a really strong marketing presence. And actually speaking to that, I think there's so much experience and wisdom and amazing work going on in our community that there's probably things that we can do to kind of just give each other that nudge up in terms of, you know, marketing, for example, and just sharing the particular niche expertise that we've got. I think that might help to sort of avoid duplication and just give each other that motivation and support and extra push.
But I think what you mentioned about time was really important, because do we have time to do, as you mentioned, the job outside? Do we have time to do the voluntary work? Do we have time to do the self-work, the family work, the faith work, all of this stuff kind of crammed into however many hours we can try and stay awake?
Yeah, and when you're doing this kind of work, it's so incredibly important to have a really strong practice yourself, because that's the only way that you can, like we all know, we can't pour from an empty cup, right? And having that sort of strong foundation of a strong spiritual practice and filling yourself up, whether that's through, having your close circle, your sangha that you go and sort of, really rejuvenate yourself from. But yeah, making sure you carve out the time for that as well, because that's an absolute priority. Otherwise, it all sort of kind of goes a bit amiss. Yeah.
So just a few things, just a few different things. Benji, how about yourself?
Again, similar, but cost of living is a big thing at the moment for service users and for our charity, Touchstone. Hiring spaces can be quite costly. Food prices are quite costly because we provide a full hot meal, vegetarian, every week, because we're not sure whether any of these elders can actually get a Punjabi roti once a week, so at least we give that as well. So again, cost of living, and then again, funding, whether our contracts are going to get renewed every year, because we're part of Leeds City Council. So there's always that worry in the back of our head. And capacity-wise, we're all part-time, but very fortunate that we have a wonderful team of volunteers that were service users that become volunteers that actually support the charity. So that helps us a lot. But yeah, capacity-wise, yeah, that's something that, because we're growing, we do have a lot of referrals to our service, but we do our best. Yeah, with what we have.
And that's a really important part to it, being able to do what you're able to with the resources available. Absolutely. But we could always do with additional different types of resources. And as you said, sometimes that's not just financial, but it could be expertise, it could be someone who can champion an organization or a space, and other people who can try and take that work forward.
Yes.
I agree with all the funding and all the message. It doesn't get out there. You just don't get people sharing this sort of content. If you put these sort of posts out of awareness of mental health and well-being, people probably look at them, but that's it, and it's looked at and it's not supported in a way, although they've probably agreed with something. And as a community, I feel that we especially don't say, yes, that applies to me, openly, and it's something we're not doing, and it's inbuilt. It's something we've all been taught to not talk or not admit, and not admit your weakness. And it's that admitting your weakness, for me, that we can be weak and we can struggle, and it's all right for others to know you're struggling. And it's okay that you can't afford something right now. You know, we put this facade to the community on quite a lot. And I see everyone doing it, even probably myself. Of course I do it. I'll be putting it, whether I'm well behind that facade or not, nobody will know. Nobody will know. And this is a challenge I want to really tackle. Apart from the norm is put it down and be open.
Amazing. Thank you so much for kind of explaining those obstacles that we see in front of us to do our work. I guess what I want to kind of finish this portion of the discussion on is what keeps us hopeful and what is our positive vision for the future. Because we all need to feel that sense of optimism. We all need to feel as though things are going to slowly change for the better. And especially as you've described, whether it's volunteers, whether it's working part-time, whether it's doing everything as well as all the other responsibilities we have, we need something to help drive us through with that. So what keeps you feeling hopeful, and what's your positive vision for the future?
For me, it's continue to keep engaging in conversations with the community, with collaborators. That helps me a lot to plan forward. Recruit more volunteers is very important. People that can show empathy, are good listeners, and speak Punjabi. That's very vital to us. We provide all the training around mental health, safeguarding at Touchstone. Again, that's what sort of drives me going forward, keeping the conversations going about how we can support each other. I don't want to say too much about gurdwaras, but there's all these lovely buildings, places of worships in Leeds. But when it comes to looking after our elderly, there's not much support there. There's no one there to help them. There's no one there to run a day centre. And it's really hard when you're actually asking people in the community to support your elderly and think that you're going to be an elder one day and your parent might need this support. And it's very hard to overcome that. The support isn't there in the community. So I'd hope you all can thrive to have these conversations in the community as well. We need to support our elders because one day we're going to be that elder too.
It's a really good point for people to take away, I think. Thinking not only generations ahead, but also looking back to those who came before us. Because actually it's their shoulders we're standing on.
Absolutely.
To be able to do what we're doing today.
That's very true.
Anyone else? What keeps us hopeful? What is our positive future vision?
So just picking up, Benji, from your reference to Gurdwara. So my vision for the future is that Gurdwara spaces are those spaces that they traditionally were, which was a place of learning, a place of well-being, a place of support in relation to every aspect of your life. So, somewhere where you can go and you can learn about sort of tools that you can use, whether that's, breath work to help sort of calm your nervous system down, when you're in that state of anxiety, whether it's learning how to eat well, how do I cook in a way which is going to support my physical, mental, emotional well-being, somewhere where you can go and immerse in Kirtan and have a very real personal connection with Guru, as opposed to a kind of almost observer sometimes, because there are, if you're already in that circle, you understand Punjabi, you can read Gurmukhi, it's much more accessible. But what about those that haven't got that in point? We need to make these places the places that they traditionally were, where the arms are open to everyone, and where actually langar is served every day, And it doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to be healthy and available to those that really need it. And I think that's one of the things that really hit me when I went to India. You know, I remember being at Keskar Sahib and Anandpur Sahib and sitting down for langar and just looking at the rows of Sangata, and you knew that 80% of that Sangat would not have eaten that evening had that langar not have been available from the Gurdwara. And that's what langar is for. And it's about building community as well. Again, you know, sitting together, having a shared meal, eating together is so powerful, right? But I feel like we've kind of lost our way a little bit, you know, in terms of those spaces. But actually all the answers can be provided from that one space if we just can bring it back to where it should, you know, and always was, where it should be.
In terms of inspiration, so sort of touching on both what Tupa and G have said, I know like some of the Gurdwara are doing a lot of things for the youngers now, so they're like doing MMA classes and Muay Thai, but it's, again, as a community, you need to send them there, then you need to get them involved in these type of things. You need to, you know, as parents or, you know, someone who's a guardian, it's pushing them into these spaces because, like you say, we've sort of become a bit recluse where we just stay at home, you know, go to work, come home, or go to school, come home, and then that's it. But we are, you know, talk about Sad Sangat or Sangat, we are like people that are communal. We do need to work together, whether that is going to your Gurdwara, going to, you know, centres, if there is like, you know, whatever it could be, just so then, you know, there is like, and we can be at these spaces and we can help those people. And it's just like you say, it's more the community feel of it. And once, you know, like a one-stop shop at the Gurdwara, there could be, you know, classes, you know, like Punjabi classes for the youngers. But then if people are suffering with mental health, there's a, you know, like a pop-up room there they can pop in and, you know, visit and talk, or, you know, whatever it is that they need to do. And same with some of the elderly stuff. So that's sort of the inspiration. But getting there, I suppose getting there is going to be, it's going to take obviously a little bit of a while, but sort of as long as we're sort of aware of that of a community, we can strive towards it. And that's probably where we need to get to, really, just to sort of making sure that we're all aware of it, sort of similar, you know, we've got like one goal in terms of making sure that we're trying to help the community whichever way possible, and then just trying to deliver that. And there is small steps happening now, which is great. So we need to sort of build on it and just, you know, keep the ball on the momentum moving.
Fantastic. I think it's they're slow steps, but they will happen. And that vision that folks have now will happen. I think the question is, will it happen in the next 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 years? As long as we're having these conversations now, we are taking steps towards that vision.
And I suppose it's on us, not just, you know, us guys up here, it's on the community as well to sort of drive that. You know, we can only do so much. Like you said, a lot of us are volunteers, but then, you know, anyone can and everyone can get involved and help regardless. And it's just trying to drive that where you want to see it and pushing it forward and trying to drive that.
For me, I'm hopeful of this thing continuing. Like you said, it's not just for the next 6 months. It's not for the next year. It's the vision of delivery in 5 years, in 10 years, and build the foundation. That's what I'd like to see happening, and it's a bit of what Jazz said. Community champions is what I'm going to call them. People actively, if you're interested in this sort of thing, championing it and making people aware, signposting them to the services. Benji's running Mind Ashram, Sikh Elders, and all these services. We're aware of them, but we won't often put, like, that person struggling, they're elderly. Should we mention Sikh Elders to them? You know, that Benji's going through a pregnancy. Could she want some help? Mind Ashram do that. Making all ourselves aware of it as well. And referring. I mean, if you look at the organisations like the NHS and other services, they've all got these signposting things, and they'll say, right, you've got these needs. The doctor will say, right, go there. But they will never refer you to any South Asian-based organisation. We're not even on the list. We're not on the signposting list. So of course people are not going to find out they're going to go to the GP and get referred to what I'll say a Western-based service who doesn't fully understand the needs. They'll understand bits. So really we need to be on that list. So that's my future.
And I think there's definitely a bigger conversation there about how we connect in with our health systems, with our social care systems, because everyone's not across the detail all the time. And so there's a lot of amazing work happening at a grassroots level within our communities that if our communities aren't all aware about it, how are people in our health systems going to start being able to point to it? And that requires time and resource and funding, essentially, to be able to continually bang that drum, because you have to pay to stay on people's radar.
It's a vision, and almost there's a job opportunity there for someone to do that. And maybe we'll try and take it on. I'm not saying us particularly, but as a community, we'll try and take it on and do that thing.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So look, I really appreciate everyone's time today, being a part of this conversation. You know, not just learning about yourselves and your journeys, but also the different work that you do, the work you do from the heart, and the work that you do that is driven by faith, that is driven by family, that is driven by a whole host of different interactions that we have. And also what we look at in terms of the vision we have of the future, how we see our work developing, how we want to take those positive steps forward, not only just in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but even further than that as well. So just before I end this portion of the podcast, I just want to ask, how do people get involved with the work that you do, and who should they reach out to?
So for us, everything's on the website, roo.org.uk. We have a volunteer with us, and mainly we can get you training, but if you're into the well-being, you're a well-being coach, or you've got some knowledge of mental health, anything in that space, you can volunteer. And it's all there. Then you fill out a form, and we enhance DBS check everybody who's interacting with Sangat or anybody, and that's it. We go from there.
Again, if you look up Touchstone Support, you'll see a varied projects that we deliver in the community. So Seek Elder Services there, BME Dementia, Blossom for FGM. But there's many other projects that we run that might suit your needs. So have a look at that if you need any support there.
So we have an Instagram page where you can message us if you've got anything that you'd like to share, whether an idea for an upcoming workshop. So we have at least one monthly in-person event, and then we have like online weekly events that happen as well. But we always have someone come from outside and share either their life story, life experiences, their life wisdom, or they might come from a particular background. It could be anything sort of holistic health related or otherwise, sharing their wisdom. So if you've got an idea for a workshop, or you want to share your own wisdom, or you just want to come and join one of our circles, you can get in touch via the Instagram page, and also there's a website too with the email address on. You can contact us there as well. So yeah, please reach out.
I suppose for myself, it's obviously the Taraki, social media pages, but then we've got Roo as well, and you might see us at a Gurdwara, you might see us at a community centre, an event, and we've got, it's not just sort of just online. There's WhatsApp, you can get messages from us in terms of events that are coming up. So they're probably the main ones I can think of.
Fantastic. And just want to say a massive thank you again for participating today, to being a part of the conversation, and to helping drive forward positive change in our communities here in Leeds and kind of broader areas as well, because these are things that are happening. It's easy to sit down and talk about what should happen. It's usually harder to get on with the actions to resolve some of these challenges that we've identified, but amongst ourselves, there's a whole host of different work that's happening. And so hopefully people can connect in with that work, become more aware of that work, and help to filter the message of that work into our communities so that maybe one day the work that we do isn't needed in the same way and has been baked into our communities. And we're reconnected with what it means to be here for each other. But thank you all very much, and we look forward to the next episode of the Mental Health Podcast by Taraki.